Hello there guys, welcome back to Younes Talks Football. I hope all of you are doing well as we dive into quite a dynamic day on Younes Talks Football. You guys today are getting a triple upload. Yes, triple. This is one. After this, later on today, we do have a special collab. I will say special, at least especially for me and the OG fans that are here, because there's a little bit of a reunion of sorts that we've not seen in maybe about a decade. If you remember 100% Chelsea, then you'll know. But that's going to be coming out later today, where we discuss Chelsea after the Bayern Munich game, heading into the United game, and a couple of the issues that we have in the squad. And we'll get their views and opinions too. Later on tonight will be the preview for Manchester United versus Chelsea. So you guys are getting quite a lot today. Make sure you subscribe, notification bell on to make sure that you are aware that when every single one of those drops. And then tomorrow you'll be getting the review for that game. But don't forget to go over to Shootout, link in the description too, where we will be doing the watch-alongs for Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Everton, first thing tomorrow as well. And then on Sunday, Arsenal City will be covering too. So make sure you guys are there. Now, we're going to start off with the news because we have to address this. What's going on? I briefly mentioned this yesterday with Disasi and Raheem Sterling. And now all of a sudden it's turned into a thing. You know, okay, so there's players that are in the squad. Well, not in the squad. They're at the club, but they're not playing. All of a sudden, Chelsea are being scrutinised for it. Why? Well, let's see what's going on, because Disasi and Sterling haven't been playing. Disasi and Sterling are not in the plans, should we say, of the first team squad. They could have had moves in this past window and they didn't leave. So now, all of a sudden, because of the PFA, and they're monitoring us apparently, everyone's talking about how Sterling and Disasi are being, like, they're being treated wrong all of a sudden. Well, when Maresca was asked this in today's press conference, this is what he's had to say. And I think this is nothing short of maybe Jose-esque as a response. Check this out. Juiciest quote from Enzo Maresca when asked on those trainings separately to his team. He said, "My father is 75 years old, and for 50 years he's been a fisherman, working from 2 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock. This is a hard life, not for players." Beautiful. That is actually beautiful. Enzo Maresca, good sir. You have nailed that response. It reminds me of, do you remember when Jose back in the day was asked about pressure? And he was like, pressure? What pressure? And then he was like, pressure is millions of people in the world who can't find food to get for their children. That's pressure. You know, they don't have bread to eat for their kids. That's pressure. Not in football. Spot on. Maresca's come out with his own version involving his dad. His dad's a fisherman, has been for 50 years, getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to make sure that he's there for fishing. That's a hard life. You know, I'm sure Maresca's situation has helped him. I'm sure financially they're not bad. They're not doing bad, but that's hard labor, proper, you know? Let's be honest. Sterling and Disasi, the way that it was asked by the journalist, the reporter in the room, she started talking about mental health. What? Are you all right? What do you mean mental health? Sterling's getting paid 325 grand a week. That's the best mental health anyone can ask here. He shows up for work at Cobham, doesn't have much of an expectation because he's not in the squad. He trains, right? He gets changed, he gets into his Lamborghini, then he goes home, and we're talking about mental health. And he's getting paid 325 grand a week. Now, it's not just that. Because for anyone that goes, no, but the mental health involves around playing football. He wants to be on the pitch and playing matches. Cool, no problem. Why didn't he go when the offer was there then? It's well documented, and we know that there were offers. There were offers. Nothing happened. These players are not staying here either. Let's call a buck a buck. Come January, these players will probably move on anyway. Disasi came out publicly to mention that if Monaco had actually made a proper move, that he actually got excited because there was a thing about a possible loan move for Disasi. But Chelsea want to sell. Chelsea want to sell. Chelsea are not holding these players hostage. Chelsea are going, listen, we want to sell these players. Place offers. It's in Chelsea's interest to make sure that they're listening to offers that come their way. And it's in the interest of others to make sure that they put a bid in if they want the player. These players are contracted at Chelsea. They show up to work. They show up and train. They are given facilities. They're not deprived of food and benefits that they get as club players. What are we doing here? All of a sudden, we're getting this sort of thing. So, actually, before we get into that, let me show you the rest of what Enzo Maresca's had to say, because I thought he was absolutely spot on. I've been in Raheem's situation and Axel's situation as a player. I know it is not the best feeling. You want to play games, but for different reasons. The situation is the way it is at the moment. The club is giving them the opportunity to work in the right way. That's all I can say. I know it is something you like and want to talk about, but it's not just Chelsea. It's every club in the world. When for any reason the player and the club does not find any solution, you give the player the tools to train, but if you are not involved in the squad, you are not involved in the squad. It's as simple as that. Let's be straight up and narrow here. When it was Garnacho exiled from the squad, no one talked about mental health to him, did they? No one brought that up. When it was even Marcus Rashford that wasn't in the plans of Manchester United and he was just basically sitting at home, was anything said? Not like this. Now we're talking about the PFA getting involved. You know, and why? This wasn't done before. Why is it always Chelsea? Why is it always Chelsea? Why? And people wonder why we look and go, nah, you know, of course it is. Of course, because it's Chelsea. Because it's Chelsea. It's always, if it's not Chelsea, this wouldn't be, no one would bat an eye. But when it's Chelsea, nah, try and cause as much problems as you can. Good. We love it this way. We love it this way. Because this is how we thrive. We thrive when we get the disrespect. Or we get the limelight shone upon us because, they want to try and find a negative story about us. Good. Keep it coming. Here's what the PFA did. The PFA Chief Executive Officer, Maheta Malango, personally intervened after Sterling posted a photo of him training after 8 p.m. The PFA are satisfied with the training conditions for both Sterling and Disasi, but will continue to monitor the situation to ensure both stand the best possible chance of a transfer away from Chelsea in 2026. Good. Because we all want that. There's one issue here, though. We got one player on 325 grand a week. So the PFA, you would also have to talk to the player and make sure that he's actually happy to be able to take a salary cut, because no club's going to give him what we're giving him right now. So if you can take that into consideration, please, that would be fantastic. And for Disasi, I'm guessing if you can just tell him to train really well, that would be great. Maybe we can send some tapes to clubs, because at the end of the day, and this is what people are missing, players have the responsibility to perform. If players are not showing a level, how are you going to attract good interest? How? When Sterling was playing, respectfully, he wasn't good enough. When Disasi was playing, he wasn't good enough. It's as simple as that. So how about we actually bring things back to merit and not just keep talking about, we got to be worried about the mental health of a player. Football is a merit-based game. It's a merit-based sport. If you show a level, you will be rewarded. If you don't, you will not. End of story. It's a competitive nature. Can we put that at the front of center? Because even on a mental health aspect, that should be the driver for many people to go and want to be the best. And mentally, I think that helps. But we're now living in a time where no, it's not about being the best. It's not about striving to push yourself and to really, really, grind. And mentally, when you actually do that, you find yourself in a better place mentally. When you're occupied and pushing and you've got goals and ambitions and aims and you're striving for them, that can actually be really good for you. But we're now in a society where we're told that's not good for you. And no matter what, just as long as you're coasting by, then that's fine. That's all you need to be doing. That's not what you need to be doing in a competitive nature like football. You need to be showing the levels. This is the Premier League level. This is the highest level in the world. And we're going to just, make it seem like, no, it's okay, don't worry. Because what? Because someone might feel a little bit mentally edgy? Mentally down? Welcome to life. Welcome to life. Now, if someone is really struggling, they've got their own problems off the pitch, and that is impacting them on the pitch, that's a different situation. But we know that's not the case for Sterling or for Disasi, because they've had decent performances for us in the past, and then it just fell off. And there are people, there are departments at Chelsea and at many other clubs across the Premier League and across the world that have certain departments that players can go to in order to talk about their mental state, talk about what they need, if they need support, if they need help, if they need aid, if they need resources, if the club will help them. The club have dedicated departments for that. So let's not pretend these guys have been neglected. Because that's the narrative here. The narrative is that, these guys are abandoned. No. What are we doing here? Ridiculous. So, let's see how this one transpires. But that's the latest on Sterling and Disasi. Let me know your thoughts down below. Now, Amorim, as we go off to face Man United tomorrow, what's the latest? So, Fabrizio Romano overnight confirmed Sam's report that Manchester United remain fully behind head coach Ruben Amorim with no moves made to line up potential replacements. I don't believe you. maybe, on the surface, United are fully behind Amorim. But you don't think there's preparations being made just in case? At the bare minimum, you don't think there's a shortlist being collated right now? Of course there is. Of course there is. I would be shocked if there's no Oliver Glasner on that list. I would be shocked if there's no Areola on that list. I would be shocked if there's no Gareth Southgate on that list. I would be shocked if there's no Marco Silva on that list. I would be shocked if they're maybe even looking at Unai Emery and Aston Villa and seeing what's happening there because they've had a poor start. Maybe he's on that list. I wouldn't be surprised. This is why, Amorim's not been sacked yet. So they're fully behind him. They're always fully behind until when he actually gets sacked. Not Amorim specifically. All clubs. Chelsea have done this time and time again. We've been fully behind Graham Potter. And then we were fully behind Mauricio Pochettino. Yeah, okay. What are we doing? When you start hearing fully behind, the guy's about to get sacked. It's done. Which is why, heading into the October international break, you best believe Ruben Amorim, unless things improve drastically, he'll be out of a job. Easily out of a job. So, what's the expectation? I think he'll go through Manchester United. He will then go through the next couple of weeks or so. And then international break, immediately as that begins, I think Amorim will get the chop. And then I think they will have things in place ready to bring in the new guy. So then he will have the international break to then stabilize himself and the team and get some training sessions under his belt and then go into more Premier League games. So that's how I see it happening. What do you think is going to happen? Let me know down below. But we'll see what happens to Manchester United when they face Chelsea this weekend. Like I said, the preview for that will be out later tonight. So make sure you're here for video number 3 of 3. This is number 1 of 3. So subscribe, notification bell on. Don't forget to check out Shootout. We've got our Premier League predictions coming out later tonight as well. So make sure you're there. And then the watch along for the game tomorrow is going to be on Shootout as normal with the crowd and with the ambiance, should we say. So I'll see all of you later on here. Much appreciated. I'll catch you then. Subscribe, notification bell on. See you later. Take care and peace.